Welcome everyone. We took a little bit of a break for the webinars for the end of summer, but we're back for fall. This is our very popular show and tell meetings. We're really excited to be back. We do these monthly. It's a chance for all of you out there to kind of get a glimpse at behind the scenes, how we as a creative team share things that are currently on our radar. Oftentimes these lead to reports that we do later on, cultural macros, etc. It's also just a chance for us to kind of step away from our desk, whether literally or virtually, and just really share with each other what things we are inspired by, things that we really love right now. We will do this again on Wednesday, November 3rd. So please keep the link and, of course, come back again. One thing that we really want to encourage is dialogue with each other. Even if you're not part of the FS team, please use the chat box. Let us know things that resonate with you. Our team is standing by. You're going to hear us talk about things as well. But let us know what you love. Let us know if you have questions, you want further links to things. We'd love to kind of help you get to those parts. But we really want this to be a really awesome community hour where we can just really share things that really are inspiring us. So with that said, I'm going to just step away from this slide for just a second, and we're going to get started on our links for today. So actually, I'm going to start, and I'm Michael Fisher. I'm one of the VPs here, VP of Menswear, but I'm also your monthly cruise director for this excursion that we call Show and Tell. So I have a couple of links today, and they definitely are very, they transcend any kind of pop culture things that I typically share. A little bit of space and a little bit of religion, and you'll see how they kind of flow into each other. So my first link, this actually came from some research for a current project that we're doing internally. Of course, we've heard plenty about what's going on with space tourism, with SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, et cetera, et cetera. This is a company that came onto my radar this week because I did see a TV news report about them. They're not a brand new company. They've actually been around for a handful of years, and they kind of were making some headlines about 5 or 6 years ago with some goals to send people into space, and then they kind of faded away. Now they're back with a really interesting goal by 2024 to kind of get into this space tourism game, but they're going to do it with this really interesting kind of balloon, if you will. And let me explain. They're called Worldview. They're actually based here in the United States in Arizona. Most people agree that the point of space, it's called the Kármán line, is 62 miles above sea level. This balloon will not take people anywhere near that. However, you will be able to see the curvature of the Earth. And whereas the other space tourism people get you into space for, very brief time, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, you'll actually be able to stay into near space for 6 to 12 hours with this one. So it's really, really fun. Also, it's much more accessible, quote unquote, financially. It's $50,000 per person versus 450,000 or millions for the others. You can take a virtual flight. So I'm not going to go through the video right now, but I do encourage you to click on this vote, worldview.space. You can kind of see what it's going to be like. You just have to put down a $500 deposit right now. But anyway, this is where they're going to take this balloon up from. So you'll be able to do it from any of these locations. In Peru, they're going to do the Aurora Borealis in Norway. They're going to do the Giza pyramids in Egypt. The Grand Canyon in the USA is where they'll first start flying from here in about 3 years. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia, the Great Wall of China in Mongolia, and then also the Serengeti in Kenya. So as far as the experience, this is what it looks like. Here's the capsule. It's very comfortable. There's no zero gravity like the other guys out there. So you can kind of see the technology is really, really great. There's onboard video cameras that capture the moments. You can actually zoom into the world below and also the stars above, utilizing the computers that are in front of you. There's even a bar, which I find really interesting. So there's a well-appointed galley. There's someone there to actually serve you cocktails while you're in your voyage. And it's really comfortable, they say. I really thought the design of this was super cool. It's accessible to everyone, which is really great, even people that have physical disabilities. And then as far as the attainability, you can see here that they say you can finance it, which, $50,000 is a lot of money to all of us, but you can finance it. So this is what it looks like as far as the capsule itself. And then this is the balloon. So the balloon is where I'm really interested, the material. So when you unfold this balloon, it actually expands to fit an entire football stadium. They don't show it here, but there's this very interesting tape that they've created. It's basically indestructible tape, and it's a seam, and it holds the balloon together, which is very, very interesting. And then they say here that the balloons are recycled after each flight, and that is true. So basically, they cannot reuse the balloon every time, but they will recycle them post-flight into products that will benefit all of the communities near the liftoff site. But of course, they can use the capsule itself. So very, very interesting company. Keep an eye on it. Their goal is to start flying people in 2024. So let's stay in space. My next link goes to this article that I've saved for a few weeks now. There's really not much to look at here. It's just something that I kind of wanted to throw out there to you all to think about as far as how people that practice religion, how it affects people that are in space, astronauts, or also people who are space tourists. So I'm just going to leave this here. Let me just get my notes for a second. But most of our religions are signaled, like the rituals in our religion are signaled by, of course, sunrise and sunset. And of course, when you're in space, there's no such thing as that. So there's been a lot of philosophers that are questioning how, when you're in space, can you actually still abide by your religious rituals? And so if you read this article on your own time, there's a lot of very interesting people that are talking about this. How do you observe your sun-centric religious practices? So in 2007, there was an astronaut who was, he was Malaysian, and he was the first practicing Muslim to stay on the International Space Station. So basically, he had to refer to the Islamic National Fatwa Council of Malaysia, who actually issued special guidelines for him to guide him through his religious practices while he's in space. So the flight coincided with Ramadan. So basically, they told him that he could wait on his fasting until he's back to Earth. Also, this article talks about Jewish scholars who have proposed very similar ideas about how that, you know, basically, if you're in space, you would abide by the time zone from which you took off from, as far as, you know, when you do things. So not all Jewish astronauts have attempted to observe Shabbat, which is very interesting. They also, there was an Israeli astronaut who did attempt it in 2003. He was aboard the space shuttle mission, and he basically took advice from his rabbi, and he observed Shabbat in accordance with Cape Canaveral, Florida, which is where he launched. My favorite quote in this article was from a rabbi who basically writes for the kosher certification organization, Star K. And he basically said, ideally, one should not travel to outer space. But if one must go, there's a number of different options that would satisfy the religious requirements. And so they basically say that you could stretch a one-day holiday into 3 days, depending on where your orbit lies. So there's a lot to consider here that we just are not really, we're just now starting to think about. If more and more people are going to go to space, maybe in our lifetime, what are some of these things that we have to think about? And religious rituals are one of those, since we're not technically on land.
I think they weren't going on to space when they first came up with those rules.
Exactly.
You're allowed and not allowed to do. So it's going to be a little challenging.
I found it fascinating, and I'm sure a lot of people will have opinions, but I definitely love the rabbi that said, first of all, I would just not go to space, but
that makes it easier.
Yeah. So my final article today really was very interesting to me. I was not familiar with this guy. So there's a new chief chaplain at Harvard, and he's an atheist. And so let me just explain. His name is Greg Epstein. He wrote a book a few years ago called Good Without God. And so a lot of people are saying, how could you be a chaplain at a university and be an atheist? And of course, Harvard's been around for 400 years. It started as a school to educate religious people, people that were preachers. So this is really interesting. So basically his role is he coordinates the activity of more than 40 university chaplains. That's how many religions are represented at Harvard: Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist, on and on and on. He identifies as a humanist. And so he basically has been there representing the humanist community at Harvard for a few years now, but now he is the new chief chaplain. So he basically says there's a rising group of people who no longer identify with any religious tradition, but still experience a real need for conversation and support around what it means to be a good human and live an ethical life. He was raised in a Jewish household, modern Orthodox, and he's been the humanist chaplain since 2005. The humanist movement, for those of you that don't know, it centers around people's relationship with one another instead of with God. So he says, we don't look to God for answers. We are each other's answers. The reason why I wanted to bring this article up, thinking about religious cultural trends, if you will, but basically religiosity is on the rise far beyond the confines of Harvard. It is the fastest growing religious preference in the United States, according to the Pew Research Center. More than 20% of the country identifies as atheist, agnostic, or non-religious. And they call those groups of people the nones, N-O-N-E-S. And that is 4 in 10 millennials also. And it's really great if you read through this article. There's a sociologist, and he basically says the reason why so many people are disaffiliating from world religions, he attributes it to a few things. The alliance between the conservative political parties and the Christian right, a decline of trust in institutions. That's something that we are definitely exploring a lot at our agency. Growing skepticism of religion in the wake of terrorist attacks, and a shift away from traditional family structures that center on church going. So read through this, check Amazon for this book if you're interested in kind of very interesting religious philosophy. But I found it very interesting that someone who'd be a chief chaplain is an atheist, and you read the article, you'll understand why. So we actually now have Jay from our home interiors team, and she's going to talk about something. Jay.
Hi, this is short and sweet. I just wanted to do some confirmations that I found for our last spring 23 season. I'm Jay, I'm the VP of Home, just so that you guys know. So a lot of times we actually get validation from commercial design spaces or hospitality spaces. And this is a great confirmation of our color spritz, as well as belonging that we did for 2023. So I just wanted to kind of share this. This is the new office space in Ireland that was built by KDL Designs, which is Kingston Lafferty Designs. Anyways, they it feels completely like the theme of it was called First Landing, and it was literally space themed. So like following Michael's sentiments on space as you go through, it's supposed to make you feel like you're in a completely other world. It's for a tech incubator, which is really quite cool if you scroll down, but you'll see how this spritz color, this bold orange that we were all kind of like, you know, hesitant about in home, obviously for obvious reasons, is now really landing well. And it definitely has this kind of beautiful belonging vibe to it. And they all kind of dress very utilitarian, which is really beautiful as well. But I love even like the desk hubs, how they're following that orange motif. And it feels almost, yeah, like 50s, 60s throwback, but with kind of more futuristic vibes to it.
This is great. Jay, can I put you on the spot for those people out there maybe aren't all up in their color philosophy from the home world? What does orange kind of, you know, motivate people to do color psychology wise?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a psychology standpoint, it is now kind of creating more of an inclusive and wow environment. So it's energizing the space, but still makes you feel very inclusive, which is quite interesting for a color to do. As you see, it's paired with a lot of some more of these like toned down neutrals or kind of more like silvered hues. It really brings like this energy to a space. And that's perfect for a working environment, right? You want someone to feel like a higher energy level when they're going through. But I loved the continued color palette for this story of how it felt just really kind of, you know, beautiful, but still very refined and modern, which is nice. We're seeing it as a very sophisticated color through the home space, which is, I find, really, truly fascinating.
It is. And I know I was in the office with you yesterday and you were talking a lot about this color. So it's cool. I
Yeah.
don't think we've seen a lot of orange since probably been a few decades since it's been really prevalent in
Yeah,
culture, the 70s, etc.
it's very true. We were at Milan Design Week which was 2 weeks ago. This was the most prevalent color that was happening in the market. Like every single exhibit had some type of hue of orange, which I thought was really, really fascinating and paired a lot with these kind of like silver metallics and wood grains and more neutral accents.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, a lot of wood grain too. And I know we were talking about that, you and I, yesterday too. So cool. Yes, Erza, you're right. I see what you're saying. It's very Star Trek. Thanks, Jay. So now we're gonna go to Florida, where our amazing guru of beauty, Hago, is based. Hey, Hago.
Hi everyone. I'm Melissa Hago. I'm the VP of Beauty and Wellness. So I'm also in space, but my link for those who can't go to space, they can go to a moon-shaped resort in Vegas. So Vegas is jumping on the space theme and all the lunar trends that we're seeing. And they're planning to build this massive moon-shaped resort. It's supposed to cost like 4.9 billion to complete. It's called Moon, and it's gonna have things like lunar colony and crater cafe and a lagoon. They're gonna have a whole nightclub themed to the moon itself. So just really interesting to see that this is a big trend that we're obviously seeing, and seeing how, you know, we're seeing it in beauty, wellness, now in hotels, and how it's really just kind of taking over. So that's that one.
Yeah, and I did read, Hago, I think this is like a concept they're hoping to do in several places. I can definitely see it in Dubai.
Yeah, well, the company that is designing this, they plan to do it in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. So I think this might be one of the first of many.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you just look at this picture, you can actually see like just scale. If you've been to Vegas, you know how big the Wynn and everything is. I mean, this is really big.
Yeah. It's gonna like definitely change the skyline of Vegas, but
yeah,
it really shows space as the new aspirational lifestyle.
It's true. It's true. It's the new like luxurious, landscape. It's very true.
So my next one, obviously technology is another big topic of conversation, and as we continue to dive into the metaverse and NFTs and our virtual living. I don't know if anyone saw this, but I thought this was really interesting that there's this new show called Alter Ego. And it's really about, creating like your avatar, and your avatar is the one that competes. There's a trailer, so we can just play like maybe 30 seconds of it. You can get a better idea, but this really speaks to where we're headed with the future of technology. And I think, personalization is also a big part that we're seeing. So just seeing how people are like kind of being able to be more themselves through these avatars and their alter ego is interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take a look.
Yeah.
Wow. This is unlike how we've seen people perform ever in the history of television. That's freaking nutty nuts.
Fox is making television history and bringing you the world's first Avatar singing competition. This is Alter Ego.
Look what we got here. I feel like you need an alter ego. There's something about how I look behind this alter ego that I feel like it's held me back.
Lost dreams and second chances are reignited when singers from all walks of life become the stars they've always dreamed of being.
Look what we got here.
Growing up, people always judged me by the way I looked and the way I sang, but I realized I don't have to be afraid.
In front of some of
So Hago, it already started, right?
will.i.am.
Yeah, I think the end of September. And it's Grimes, Alanis Morissette, will.i.am. And I don't know how Nick Lachey got in there, but he's in there too. So. No offense, Nick.
It's the same people that did The Masked Singer. And actually, speaking of Grimes, very interesting. I'm sure a few of you saw the pictures of her walking around LA the other day, reading the Communist Manifesto. And she was wearing this like really interesting space age outfit. But I just read that the sales of the Communist Manifesto on Amazon have like been 500% increase since those pictures of her walking around reading it came out the other day.
Oh,
Very
man.
interesting.
Quickly, I'll go over the next one. This one, so, we've been talking a lot about Ecolab and lab grown and how do we kind of use technology and work with science so we don't take from nature. So obviously, me and my team focus more on the beauty industry, but I thought that this was interesting to see lab grown diamonds. So in the accessories industry, how they're looking to recreate this, how it's, we know that, there's so much behind, there's like blood diamonds, the poor treatment of like mine workers, all the ethical things behind diamonds. So I think, it's really interesting to see how they're trying to have these lab grown diamonds take over and how they're more cost effective, and how buyers are also willing to buy these because again, it's better for the environment, for the ecosystem. Of course, there's also the cons of it, like, they might not have the best resale value, but hoping that, this could be the future of diamonds and of like, finding different ways to take care of the environment.
Interesting. Hallie, if you're on, Hallie from our accessories team, are you seeing any mentions of lab grown diamonds out there in the market when you're kind of at the shows and whatnot?
I think Hallie is sitting in as an attendee, but Hallie,
okay.
feel free to add to the chat.
Yeah, Hallie, if you're on, put in the chat box. I'm so interested to know if this is something that's showing up in the accessories trade shows.
And then I just had to add this one last minute because yesterday they announced the world's 50 best restaurants. So I just, obviously we won't have to go through all them, but I think it's fun to have the link and to kind of, see what made the top one. And if you go to the next link, I just shared the #1 restaurant because obviously
yeah.
That's where I scroll down to first. So it is Noma in Copenhagen, and they are really known for their new Nordic cuisine. They offer 3 menus and you can scroll and see the pictures. It's really beautiful. And so they have like their seafood season from January to June, their vegetable season in the summer, and then game and forest in the winter. So yeah, they were the #1 restaurant. And obviously I recommend scrolling through all of them, but I just thought this one was so beautiful.
Yeah, and Hago, thank you for bringing Noma back to our cultural conversation. I don't know if you all remember, Noma was actually one of our starting points a few years ago when we kind of did that whole visionary that was kind of inspired by the Catskills and Scandinavia and everything. Forgive me, I forget the name of it. I'm sure someone will type it in the chat box, but Noma was actually one of our starting points inspirationally. They do the most beautiful presentations that you've ever seen, lots of blues, as you can actually see here. So I'm glad they're still #1 in the world.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hago. Okay, Lily. Hi, Lily.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be with all of you. I have missed you all. There's many of you on. I would love to share. So a few things, one specific thing, and we have a great guest with us. I know she's trying to make her sound work, but as some of you know, during the pandemic, I, with my family, moved to Israel, and I've been exploring, discovering, new designers, creative spaces here. And I came across this incredible multidisciplinary space called Belonging. Michael, you can actually just maybe scroll down. It's in the middle of this little town. And when you walk in there, it's truly a magical space. I did an interview, so all of you know we've been doing a lot of fireside streams, and some of you that are clients have seen many of them. We've been doing all of them through Zoom. And I felt like it's time to do a live fireside stream, and it was so much fun. So Noah was generous enough to say yes to an interview. And of course, when we met, we fell in love, and we became dear friends already very quickly because we share so much of our, thinking and methodologies and commitments to design and creativity and all of that. I wish all of you can meet her and, not just on Zoom, but honestly, I wish all of you could visit her space. So we recorded an interview together, Michael. You could maybe click, the interview will actually be released today, so you can watch it. It's also here on your link. It's an interview I did in physical space with her. So we could just watch a few minutes so you can get a sense of this incredible space. And Michael, maybe you could enlarge it. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Okay. I think that's good, Michael.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
a good preview.
Yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. It's not too long. We had so much footage that we had to turn into 35 minutes or so. So I recommend watching it. I hate to watch myself on camera, but I have to say I really enjoyed watching this video. I must have watched it 20 times already because we've been editing. So I want to introduce Noah and just have an opportunity to have a little bit of, dialogue, and we'll share more. When we do the fireside streams, we find influencers who resonate and also confirm one of our sentiments. And I have to say, Studio Belonging and what Noah creates probably fits into 3: grow, raw, and belonging. So it's actually across the board, inspired our season a lot. And I think what blew my mind and what really touched me in this space, and also in the philosophy and Noah's creation of products, is how alive the space was and how alive all the objects were. And I know we've been talking a lot about that, and for all of you that are clients, digging into the growth sentiment and really questioning that, So I just want to, first of all, Noah, thank you for being there, and hello and welcome. And, just maybe quickly, I know if we had a full hour, you could probably expand, but, what does alive objects mean to you, and how do you make that a reality? Because I know many of us crave that and want to create that.
Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here. Do you hear me?
Yep.
We hear you.
We hear you. Perfect.
Thank you. So I thought to talk maybe a little bit more about the principles, about the values around this idea of, as you said, living or lively objects. I think the first question I always ask my clients and myself is your environment alive? What makes your surrounding, your home, your office space, etc., alive? I believe that natural and breathable materials contribute significantly, significantly, to create a life space and objects that materials can create, that artificial materials can create. So, of course, natural materials as well, also getting old and worn out, worn out, beautifully and gracefully, with all the patina that added to it with time. So it's evidence to the living process as well on the surface of the objects. Another important point for me is the use of sustainable materials, of course, that all not just contribute to a better world, but also carry within them references, energy, memory from previous life and use. So the fact that this material was already part of something else, part of something that already was an object in this world, and we take the leftovers and create a new objects or products, I think we somehow continue this chain of energy, if I may say so, in that this piece is carrying. Like a piece of salvage wood or antique or vintage linen or textile always have this, how you say it, holding a lively energy within it. Also, we choose almost always, we prefer, because I think it residents the liveness of the human spirit, of the human hand.
So I think we
So I
lost you
think,
for a little bit. I think we lost you for a bit. What were you saying? Handmade? I heard a little bit of it, but we lost most of it. Can you repeat the beginning?
Sorry, I
Just
said,
no, it's okay. Don't worry. Just a lot. Don't worry. Technology is, beyond all of us.
I said we choose and prefer handmade production. Because I think it's a way of, it residents the liveliness and the human spirit that the object holds in it. People coming to our space, to our project, and so many times they're coming into the space and they're saying, wow, I came to breathe, or I came to meet myself, or I feel now different, or I want to carry this energy with me. So it means that this natural materials and sustainable materials, and there's something about them that are so, there is a truth in them, and I think it contributes to this liveliness that you talk about, this living space.
Yeah,
I really would like you all to see the movie.
Yeah.
I think better there than now in the interview. I'm very excited, and there was a technical problem, so maybe I don't put all my ideas together as I wanted to.
I think we got all your ideas. I think you could see on chat, but it resonated and it landed clearly. And I think that I truly wish that each of you could come and visit the store with me, visit the space with me. But for now, enjoy the video. And yeah, I mean, I think, Noah, what you've created and how you're able to capture the reality of objects that really truly feel like they're alive, and that, I can't get enough of them, honestly. And so first of all, great job with what you've created. And
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this wonderful interview with you and to meet with you. Thank you.
Anyone that knows Lily knows that this aesthetic fits her to a T.
Yeah, again, it's like, I can't, it's interesting to go from, and again, I want take over the whole show and tell, but it's interesting to go from a New York space to a space in Israel and create a home that, for me, the intention was to have it feel really alive and have objects in it that, make a home feel like a true home. So Noah's been supporting that reality, and I'm learning a lot from the creative process. So watch the video. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. And
someone was asking here where it is. So it's not in Tel Aviv. It's north of Tel Aviv, and actually it's in nowhere on Google Earth. So I mean, you come and then you discover this word. I mean, so it's not in the hub of the city. It's north of Tel Aviv. And actually what really makes us so happy that people are really coming special to our place. So it means a lot for us. Yeah.
Makes it worth it. Well, thank you for being here with us, Noah. And we'll share the video with all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Noah. Thank you. I love what you said about feeling the human spirit through the object itself, and it's very profound. Wow, I think you really inspired everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Erza, hi, how are you?
Definitely hard to follow that. That was inspiring. So Remote Futures is a really, really cool website that I came across. It's set in the future. And it anticipates the landscape of future scenarios in order to make them more tangible. So for instance, this one's set in 2030 in Europe. It's talking about how remote work is now the norm. And so this is just the reality of it. So here you see like 4 future scenarios. It's a matrix of the reality of remote working, virtual only, balancing work and life, everyone against everyone, and nomadic independence. And then in the matrix, they also separate the points by like freelance, workers' right, corporate. So if you click on one of them, so let's say virtual only, It's someone from the future that's talking about her experience. I even love how it's saying receiving data from 2030, but you can listen to her story. It's a bit long, we don't have to listen to it, but it was just so interesting to think of the things that could possibly happen in the future. So she was talking about how, you know, she lives somewhere and can't obtain a working visa now and must stay local because now everything is digital. So there's no reason to work remote, get a working visa and move somewhere. They use avatars, so there's no real facial expression. She really misses like interacting with people. There's a company AI that really checks on everybody and is like the ultimate micromanager, but just certain things that she misses about how it used to be, I guess, 10 years ago. And then if you also click in any of them, there's like, they're accompanied by future artifacts. So they're talking and they talk about specific the tools that they use, and if you just click to the right, it's like these future artifacts. So I really love how they did this whole website. You know, as futurists, as forecasters, we love to see how people are telling the future in unique ways.
Sorry, I don't see where the artifacts are.
To the right. So maybe you have to listen to Vero's story.
Okay.
And then you just slide over to the right. So he'll talk about his experience in 2030. And then these are like little things that he mentions in his story. It's like a quick 2-3 minute experience of how it is in 2030.
Very interesting. So basically it's basically meant to lead us to a point where we have empathy with our fellow humans that are living in 2030 and kind of what they're up against.
Yeah, and just even like I was listening to Everyone Against Everyone, I'm like, how could this be? And the guy was just saying how, you know, we're always fighting for jobs because there's always someone in other countries willing to do it for less now that everything's virtual. And like just like an Uber rating, freelancers now have ratings to impress clients. It's very like Black Mirror-esque, but pretty realistic, you know?
Yeah. In 2030, we'll be here before we know it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So Rubens Museum Mandala Lab, it's a cultural healing space. It inspires connection, empathy, and learnings by channeling Buddhist principles. So their motto is emotions can turn to wisdom. And the space really encourages guests to explore their emotions, consider how complex feelings arrive on their day-to-day, and just imagine the power that they might have to transform them. You know, we talk a lot about emotions, even our sentiments are inspired by them. So it's really great to see, you know, emotions as a key driver where art usually stands in this museum. And they set this up by like 5 thought-provoking and playful experiences. They have videos, scents, sculptures, instruments. So it's really going into all of the senses to guide visitors along an inner journey. And this is in New York.
And can I just point out, it's really interesting, common theme we're seeing today is a lot of influences by moons and celestial bodies. Lots of, like, even when Jay was showing the spritz colored room, everything was rounded. And this is something we've been feeling for a while, this kind of really comfort and femininity of these rounded shapes. But now we seem to be seeing a lot of links that are really pointing towards the moon as inspiration too, or other planetary forms. But
definitely, because I guess when we think about the future, it may seem a little cold and techy, but this is like a warm way to visualize it.
Interesting. Great. Thank you, Erza. Those are awesome. Good things to think about. Okay, next up, we are going to go to Danny from our women's team. Hi, Danny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danny. I'm the women's strategist here at FS. So my first link highlights some cultural and social media happenings and recognizes a group of queer elder creators on TikTok that have gone viral by really feeling this need for the younger queer generation on the app to find and see adults and people they can look up to, people they find relatable, as they often refer to these elders as either aunts or uncles or fairy god people. And it's very much a part of queer history and consciousness to have a chosen family that's not not necessarily blood related. So these elder creators kind of break that barrier for younger generations who may not have that chosen family in their physical surroundings, while at the same time dismantling notions of ageism, which tends to also run rampant in the queer community at times as well. It's also a really big educational opportunity for Gen Z to learn about queer history from those on the front lines who paved the way for the world that we live in now. As one creator explains her multiple coming out journey throughout her life, first as a lesbian and then as a non-binary person, many years later, showing how gender nonconformity is truly nothing new. Yes, Chelsea, I love the old gays too. They're featured in here as well.
Yeah, I saw it at the top. It's Danny.
They don't look that old, you guys. I feel really old
Well-
by looking at these pictures, and you guys are calling them old, and they look like super young to me. I don't understand.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, I think also at the same time, they've just so seamlessly integrated into an app that's traditionally associated with this younger generation, and just goes to show that TikTok really provides this platform for these intergenerational relationships and bonds to form. And I think also at the same time, as social media can sometimes be a really scary place, depending on what comment section you're in, I think this goes to show that TikTok truly is an all-encompassing, super inclusive platform if you find the right corners to hang in. So I think it also just goes to show that TikTok really is just a place for everyone. But I hear you, Lily, for sure.
I'm just kidding with you guys. I get it. We are older, just not old.
It unfortunately is a common, any of us who are parts of the LGBTQ plus community, unfortunately, you know, ageism is a major issue, as Danny alluded to. And oftentimes when you're 40 and above, you're looked at as an old man or an old woman. And, you know, most of these people are definitely, you know, more in the senior citizen demographic. But I don't know if you all remember, or Danny, do you remember this? It was probably a few months ago, and one of us shared at a show and tell, an exhibition that was really inspiring, and they were actual stories from our more senior members of the LGBTQ plus community. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but
I do. I think, did you share it, Michael?
Maybe it was me. Yeah, maybe it was me that shared it. I think it was probably me. But this is something that seems to be really important right now, and I do love that younger people, Gen Z specifically, are very open to the storytelling from those people that really blazed a path for our community earlier on. And I just love now that they do, through social media like TikTok, that they do have a voice, because they have amazing sense of humor, and you know, they have really great things to say. So.
And I think it also goes to show, again, you know, they're not so old, but I think that it's also, in terms of ageism, you think that like your life is over by the time you get to a certain age, and these people almost like went viral for the first time at 50 plus, which I just think is such a cool, you know, reflection of our time. So this link is a feel-good link, and something I found through research as we're starting here at FS to plan for our next season and what our next cultural sentiments are and design aesthetic. And this article connects with some of our past sentiments like wonder and harmony. And this article speaks to the feeling of awe. So the writer explains how awe is a feeling that doesn't necessarily have to be experienced through some otherworldly encounter like stargazing or an intense spiritual awakening, but rather something that can be elicited through everyday encounters. So some of our closest interpersonal connections that we often take for granted or glaze over or don't normally notice. And psychologists call this interpersonal awe. So some examples, there are many in this article, so I definitely suggest taking a look when you get a chance. But some of the articles are a husband witnessing a nurse tidy up the hospital bed for his wife who's suffering from a chronic illness. Or another is a parent with their kids at McDonald's noticing their child bring a toy from their own Happy Meal to another child's crying from across the restaurant as a way to soothe that other child. And I'm sure many parents on this call can relate to that feeling of interpersonal awe, like watching your child develop, express kindness in new ways. And it also just connects to this idea at FS that we're about finding the beauty in the mundane. And of course, this isn't a new strategy in navigating one's life, but it's a reminder that we all need, especially I know I do, as our world becomes increasingly divided, which is often just an external reflection of our own internal divides, which can be bridged with feelings like awe. So if you're a creative on a call, I hope your interpersonal experiences of awe can inspire your creative process, because I know it inspires mine and inspire all of ours.
I love that you shared this article. I had not read it until you shared it this morning, and I was looking through the links, but you really hit the nail on the head. When you're a parent, a lot of us on this call who work at FS are new parents, and seeing the world through a child who's not jaded or cynical, and they genuinely get excited about things that many of us would never even give a second look to. Also, the level of empathy with children that unfortunately many of us just no longer have. But this is something that we should all really live with, I think, today and think about. Really, really good.
This also this also takes me back to Noah and belonging, and just, again, the finding of beauty in the everyday or banality and how much more powerful it can be versus, I think even the term awe is so interesting in the context of our everyday reality. When you think about awe being so like intense or overwhelming, sometimes when something so simple can kind of really hit you, it feels more powerful than kind of sensory overload.
Agreed. There's beauty around us no matter where we live. We may think we live in the most mundane part of the world, but if we just take a moment and just open our eyes, the beauty is there to see. I love that you said that.
Inspiration is everywhere, as Lily likes
As we say at FS.
I got that from Noah. Inspiration is everywhere. So.
Okay, now for slightly, we're gonna drive the car to a different road here for a second because I know what she's talking about. Mallory.
I was gonna say, yeah, going from a beautiful, heartwarming, awe-inspiring to a brutal competition where people will fight and kill to the death for money. Hi, I'm Mallory. I'm a beauty.
Both are true, Mallory.
Both are true, indeed. I'm Mallory. I'm a beauty and wellness strategist here at Fashion Snoops, and I'm going to highlight Squid Game, which, if you're uninitiated, Squid Game is this amazing Korean drama that just landed on Netflix pretty recently, and it's just been taking over the imagination of the internet. I can't stop seeing Squid Game themed TikToks, memes, and I was going to show the trailer, but since we're running short on time, you can just check out the trailer in your own time. I've included a few links if you just want to click into one of the articles, Michael.
Yeah.
So I've included several links that just offer different points of perspective about why Squid Game is trending. Just to summarize what the show is about without spoiler free, without any spoilers. Essentially, it revolves around these people who they're in debt, or they're just, up against hard times, and they're kind of sought out by this mysterious corporation to participate in a game where they can win just untold amounts of money. And at first it seems very simple because they're like, these are kids games. This is easy. Things like red light, green light, which is the first episode. But it turns out, of course, this is a very malevolent organization, and people are dying in, brutal ways. Again, it's, perfect for Halloween. It's very gory and disturbing, but I mean, the real reason I think it's resonating with people who are watching it is, of course, the allegories about rich versus poor, about what people are willing to do in a society that is hopeless to get ahead. Even within the show, the different contestants that you meet, they have different motivations. And again, just speaking about that duality of human nature, some people look menacing but end up being kind. Some people betray each other. Some people have just these really impactful, profound reasons to want to win the money. Some people look nice, and then, end up stabbing in the back. So it's just, again, it's not quite dystopian because it takes place in our current reality. It's more horror than dystopia, which is terrifying. But it is very graphic. Thank you, Brooke, for pointing that out. If you are squeamish, if you are scared, if that's not your thing, full warning, it is very, very gory. But the reason that it's definitely resonating is because of this deeper message about class divides, society, and just kind of what we're willing to do in the world to get ahead. So hopefully there's a season 2. There's no word on that yet, but hopefully there is, because there's definitely a cliffhanger at the end. But definitely, if you're on TikTok, the Squid Game, especially the red light, green light meme, has been all over TikTok recently. So definitely recommend checking that out.
Right. And a couple things, a little more than a week ago, no one was talking about this. It is now officially the most watched show in Netflix history. It's all over the zeitgeist. Every news show is talking about it. And then I just saw this morning that, a lot of people want to go for Halloween in these costumes. And of course, we can't go to our corner Spirit Halloween and find this costume. But if you go on Amazon, there are a plethora of black market brands that are already selling these costumes. So I'm sure you're going to see a lot of people going as, members from this game show, quote unquote. So
It's so funny you said that, Michael, because I love these green tracksuits, but
Tracksuits.
unfortunately I've already committed to alligator Loki for my Halloween costume, so I can't turn back now. But I love the look.
Very on trend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then quickly for my second link, I thought this was a beautiful way to display both nail products and shades, and really merging color concepts with the beauty and wellness world and with art. This is by a really cool brand, Gel Care. They tapped Instagram photographer Gabois to kind of make these cool just little compositions that marry their new upcoming nail shades with just everyday objects, food, to really bring across that color inspiration and convey it through the visuals. And just the way that it's done is just so clever. Gabois is the name of the creator on Instagram. I'll link it in the chat. But I just thought this was so clever and just so inspiring. So
great. Thank
those
you,
are my
Mallory.
links.
All right. Also from our women's team today, we have Brooke. Hey, Brooke.
Hello, hi. My internet's a little spotty today, so forgive me if I get stuck. I'm Brooke. I'm from the women's team. So I'm sure you guys have seen this because it came out like early September, but Ray-Ban and Facebook introduced Ray-Ban Stories. And it's basically smart glasses that you can capture photos, 30-second videos. You can do like, there's a capture button or hands-free commands. There's LED lights that light up to let you know that you're taking a photo or video, or letting other people know. There's built-in open ear speakers and audio mic and background noise suppressors, and it imports to your phone and all apps. So you can play this video, this one right here, the one right above it. It's kind of cute.
This guy's?
Kind of just shows. No, I think the second one, the one right below it.
This one.
Yeah.
All right.
It's really short, but it just kind of, you don't have to play the whole thing, but it like just kind of shows her like putting them on and then like recording her day. And it's like obviously in action because you don't have to hold your phone, and it saves right to your camera. And I think they're like $2.99 USD, and they come in like 20 different combinations. If you scroll down like a little bit more, it shows you, no, down like a little more. Yeah, right there it shows you like the different versions, from like eyeglasses to sunglasses. I think they're kind of cute. Like,
yeah, I know they look a lot more. I mean, does everyone remember Google Glass? RIP.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so much more attractive. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Exactly like
cuter.
snap glasses.
I don't think, but yeah, like the Google ones obviously did a lot more than just taking, like these are more targeted again, like to social media, but they're kind of cool.
Yeah. And they're investing a lot in TV advertising. Just since you told me about this, I've seen a lot of TV ads. So they're definitely.
Yeah. If you check out their Instagram, they have like cute little videos showing it.
Cool. All right. Thanks, girl. Taryn. Hey, Taryn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taryn. I'm a beauty and wellness strategist. So for my first link today, I wanted to share that there's a bill that's being reintroduced to Congress called WIGS as Durable Medical Equipment Act. And basically it was reintroduced on Friday. And what it is that it would make wigs covered by Medicare for people that are undergoing treatments like chemotherapy that causes hair loss, or alopecia, which is an autoimmune disease that attacks hair follicles. So currently wigs aren't covered by Medicare, and they can be very expensive. So that leaves a lot of low and fixed income patients without the resources that they need. So the bill was reintroduced by Congresswoman, Ayanna Pressley, who she herself was actually diagnosed with alopecia as well. It's been stalled in Congress for just over 2 years, but it was reintroduced on Friday. And in a statement, Pressley was saying that every person battling cancer or facing medical conditions that lead to hair loss should have access to these wigs. And she was quoted saying, "Our bill is responsive and sends a powerful message to these communities. We see you, you belong, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect." So I just thought this was really great to see. It's something that we've been tracking within beauty and wellness, seeing more representation for different communities like this. So it's great to see that this is being pushed forward again.
This is great. I know a lot of insurance plans do cover it, but you're so right. If you are a lower income or fixed income individual, this is probably not a reality for you. So
Exactly. And there's so many more benefits than just cosmetic, which is the bill also addresses as well.
Definitely, definitely.
So for my second link, a little local news. So I'm currently located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And for those of you not aware, Albuquerque is home to the International Balloon Fiesta. So this year was the first year back. It was canceled in 2020. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it's basically this huge festival where hot air balloons are released. People from all over the world come. There's hundreds of balloons that go up. As you can see in the video, there's all sorts of like cool shapes. There was a baby Yoda, a penguin. I think there was a zebra too. So it was just really cool and beautiful to see. The first launch was this past weekend. So that's a skyline over Albuquerque and you can see all of the balloons. So it was a really, really cool experience. So if you're ever in the Albuquerque area around October, definitely recommend going to see it. There's also an event that you can buy tickets for to go and actually go to the park where they release all the balloons and get really cool pictures. But if you're up high enough around the city, you can see them all over the sky, and it's a really cool experience.
Taryn, have you ridden in a hot air balloon?
No, I really, really want to though.
Okay.
It's on my list.
I ask because, I consider myself a daredevil. I've bungee jumped, I've gone skydiving before, but for some reason, a hot air balloon, I feel like I'm not vulnerable enough to do it. It freaks me out for some reason. And I think it's because it's so slow and suspended.
Yeah, like it almost feels like because it's so slow, there's like less control.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah, I was like, when we first moved to Albuquerque, I was like, I've got to do this. And now like, I'm like, do I really want to?
Yeah, Brooke said she's done it. It's a strange sensation. Lynn's done it in Colorado.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Funny, no one reacted of being scared when we showed the other space balloon.
Well, that had a bar.
Yeah,
it was a drink. I guess you could drink in a hot air balloon too.
Yeah, but I just added a few extra links if anyone else is interested in learning more about it and the opening day.
Great, thank you. Everyone that's on, we're gonna definitely go long, but it's okay. We have good vibes today. We're sharing some really cool stuff, so stay on with us as long as you can. All right, next up from our culture team is Nico.
Hey everyone, I'm the Culture and Consumer Insights Analyst here on the Culture team. And the first thing I wanted to share with y'all today is another book. I showed you guys a couple books last month, but I wanted to show you Misfits by Michaela Coel. She calls it a personal manifesto. If you aren't already familiar, Michaela Coel is a writer, an actress, director, and a producer. And at the Emmys last September, she became the first Black woman to win an Emmy for writing. She won her Emmy for her HBO show, which is called I May Destroy You. Let me know if you've seen it. I highly, highly recommend it. It is one of the best shows I've ever seen, and it deals with so many important issues. She's also just incredibly funny. And this show is semi-autobiographical, and as you can gather, she did write the show. She's just such a huge inspiration because she's such a resilient person and an inspiring creative and has the best sense of humor. I picked this one up at a local bookstore here in Washington, D.C. called Politics and Prose. And I'll just read a little bit of the description that they put on this website. It says, Michaela Coel's McTaggart Lecture, which is a lot of what this book is based on. It's based on a lecture she gave a few years ago. Touched a lot of people with her striking revelations about race, class, and gender. But in the end, the person most impacted was Coel herself. Building on this speech, Misfits immerses readers in her deeply personal vision through powerful allegory and anecdotes, from her East London upbringing to her discovery of theater and love for storytelling. Misfits is a triumphant call for honesty, empathy, and inclusion. This timely, necessary book is a rousing coming to power manifesto dedicated to anyone who has ever worried about fitting in. So yeah, this was a great read. It's pretty short. I read it on a 3-hour train ride to Washington, D.C.
That's awesome. I love that Nico always has the actual book, no Amazon Kindle for him. And I vote for Nico to host an adult version of Reading Rainbow, please.
Oh yeah, no, I just love having a physical book because I don't know, like there's no ads, there's no notifications. It's very solitary and it's a great exercise.
Great, thank you, Nico. And then you have a podcast too, right?
Yeah, so I have this podcast recommendation, which I've been listening to for the past few months. This is called For the Wild, an anthology for the Anthropocene. And I wanted to share this because they touched on so many shifts that we've included in our cultural sentiments and macros, such as belonging, reciprocity, seed sovereignty. Some of the topics that they cover are promoting ecological renewal, struggling to protect wildlife, and resistance, as well as healing from the disconnection that we've experienced from like hyper-consumerist culture and human supremacy over nature. So some of the episodes that I really liked were about the future history of water, queering permaculture, climate resilience rooted in ancestry, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, they had an episode about relations of reciprocity. So this just feels so much in line with what we talk about as a team lately in regards to ecology and gaining a more connected perspective between humanity and nature, rather than being this alienated, separated entity from nature.
Yeah. This is great, Nico. Nico's one of our newer members of our team, but man, has he really, we feel his footprint. He's so influential, especially with new media. So appreciate you, Nico. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna go back to the West Coast. We're in LA now with Melissa Moylan from our women's team.
Hi, Michael. Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa. I'm the VP of Women's at FS. So my first link, I'm going to throw it back to Fashion Week because that's what our team has been in for the past month. You can click on the first link, and I think this is a really interesting conversation. It's especially relevant to what we've just seen in Paris. If you've been following our social media and as well as our Top 5 Tuesday, we have 2 different features of Balenciaga. One was the fact that the way that the show itself was staged was that everybody was kind of ushered into the Châtelet Theater with a red carpet backdrop. And it was just kind of this funny thing, like anybody from editors to clients to obviously influencers and celebrities kind of walked this and had their picture taken. And that's how the entrance of the show was. But then once you got to the huge Châtelet Theater, you realized that that was the show and the models were kind of dispersed between them. And then at the end of that, we also spoke to this on our social, which was the Simpsons Balenciaga episode, which is like a 10-minute amazing kind of clip when the Simpsons actually get to wear Balenciaga. There's a lot of funny things on there. Watch it if you haven't. But the article addresses something about what Balenciaga did, what Demna did for this season in particular, and something that I was feeling as well. Before I saw this article, I kept thinking like fashion entertainment and how that's becoming really strongly felt, especially in Paris. The article also identifies some other things that we've mentioned. I know Nia, I think last month mentioned Telfar TV, where they introduced this streaming channel that hosted its biggest drop. So you had all these influencers all of a sudden like scanning the QR codes that are on Telfar TV to shop it. Sidebar, if you want a Telfar bag, I think they're still running their bag security program just until today. But anyway, that all relates to just kind of these events and these things that are happening, and there's not a name for it. And the article kind of suggests that we don't know what to call these yet. It's almost like before we got to social media as a name, we didn't have it, but we still had social media. Same with reality TV. It went on to include a couple more really good examples, I think, of what they called merchtainment. Kim Kardashian wearing her Balenciaga bondage gear and wearing the same outfit to the Met Gala. Also some things that recently happened, the Lil Nas X and Jean Paul Gaultier shirt, anything that's affiliated with Kanye West would fall into the classification of merchtainment. They went on to also suggest that if the collaboration happens with Kanye and Gap, that might be the moment when it becomes super commercial and the whole world subscribes to it. So I'll just close that one with a quote from the article that I thought had a lot of meaning, and I think there's a lot of momentum behind this. It said, merchtainment is the fashion industry swallowing entertainment whole at a time when no one could care less about a Grammy or an Oscar, and when many teenagers can name more creative directors than film directors. Merchtainment is how fashion spilled out of its designated weeks and into a year-round spectacle where consumers follow brands as much as they buy things from them.
That's really good. I mean, I wanted to just say, you know, the term merchantainment, very beginning of my career, I worked at Ralph Lauren, and his son, David Lauren, who's a very smart guy and ran marketing at the time, he actually coined the term merchantainment back then. And they were really one of the first brands at the beginning of the internet that, you know, added something other than, you know, e-commerce onto their site. But this is really interesting that brands are trying to find ways to kind of involve a consumer that doesn't necessarily have to do with point of purchase, right?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like their universe and
Yeah.
how you involve them, whether it's, you know, a new TV channel or, you know, involving a celebrity at some level. And kind of, I think that's interesting also, like the evolution of collaborations and what the future looks like. The next one that I'm going to share, so this is something that you may have heard or saw us promote as well. We have been partners with the Tranoi trade show in Paris for about 1.5 years now. And what we've done, what we're looking at right now is Tranoi Link. This is their online digital platform. This is something that they came up with in the midst of the pandemic, like many other trade shows, whereby we identified some of the key trends of the season, and then we pulled product that aligned with it. So that's something that we've been ongoing and we're continuing to do with them. But what we did this season was a little bit different because it was their first physical show since the pandemic, like a lot of other shows this season. And it was held, you could go back to the link, Michael, and we could watch a little bit of the video. But what we did is we hosted a webinar with them, whereby we went through 4 of our trends geared towards what retailers and buyers are shopping at the show. And we spoke to our influences, our mood boards, we showed some of our color palettes, key items, but then we had our correspondent Pascal Douglas on the floor at Tranoi, very showroom-like setting. And I would speak to the trend and then he would actually show us product that he found at the show. So for us at FS, this was actually our first phygital event that we did, whereby I was on the digital realm and he was in the physical. And we'll just watch this. It's pretty short, as well as the one after.
Yeah, so here he is actually speaking to it. So Melissa, you're not there physically, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
the
It was
next
in
one will
Los
show.
Angeles.
Yeah,
So
the next one we're going to show. So that's the first one. And then here we'll just click the second one.
and then the second one, this is a very behind the scenes
Right.
where you could literally see how I'm going through mood and trend influences, and they're projecting it on the laptop. And then that's what it looked like at the physical show. They had a really nice studio setting, and it was really nice because I think we'll share it in our Tranoi report that's going live on our site this week or next week. But it's a really nice play between Pascal and I in conversation.
Yeah, really good. And we all hope for the day where we can just be little avatars at trade shows all around the world.
Well, I'm hoping to go back, but
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. All right, Jenna. Hi, Jenna.
Hey, Michael. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Garasio, and I'm the VP of Content Strategy. So it's kind of interesting that mine comes after Melissa, because I feel like my concept and example that I want to share today kind of goes back to a different way to think of merchtainment, because obviously what Melissa was talking about is how fashion is being kind of pushed into this new realm of entertainment and TV. And it's interesting to see television and film kind of doing the opposite of going into kind of a point of sale or recontextualizing how they can kind of make money in different ways. And I think both of these results kind of also come from the pandemic, where obviously in this instance that I'm about to share, kind of also comes from the fact that people aren't going to premieres or going to movie theaters as much. And the film industry has kind of had to rethink how they make money and how they present films. So this that you're on right now is Zero Contact. It's a sci-fi film starring Anthony Hopkins. And what they did is they skipped the theatrical release and instead premiered this film as an NFT. So they're calling this the world's first feature film NFT event. And it really kind of just hints at how blockchain technology really could kind of revolutionize the way Hollywood films are distributed and the way that viewers kind of engage with them. So this film debuted on Vuel, which we're looking at right now. So this is a direct-to-consumer viewing platform that delivers featured films and collectible entertainment and content as NFTs. This is a platform I wasn't familiar with prior. And it allows kind of users to buy limited edition films and content that they can then kind of watch, sell, and trade. So for Zero Contact, the first 11 digital copies of the film were auctioned on September 24th on OpenSea, which is a New York-based NFT marketplace. So when they auctioned these off, there was extras such as never before seen footage, as well as the actual film itself that then once purchased, you could trade or sell the copy that you bought. So according to Vuel, the movie grossed nearly 6 figures in the 4-day auction, which is pretty impressive. And each winning NFT allowed for the winner to be edited into the film with a personal Zero Contact shoot and edit, which we don't have to watch the trailer now, but if you do watch it, it looks like it was produced almost like over Zoom. I think it was created and produced during the pandemic. So all of the characters are kind of on a screen the whole time. They're trying to figure out this mass conspiracy that's going on. But it's interesting because it also allows for a way for someone else to be introduced into the film, which is interesting. And then there were all these different other things like digital artwork of the film poster. And I don't know, I think it's just interesting to think about NFT and blockchain through the lens of the film industry. We've been talking about it a lot in terms of fashion and tracking, but we're seeing really the film business kind of waking up to the potential and this kind of idea of leveraging tokenization of digital artwork. So interesting thing to just kind of track and see how that kind of evolves.
And if you are out there and you still don't fully understand the concept of NFT, you're not alone. We're still working through it too. It's really confusing, I think, to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of iterations. And I think what it really opens the door to is that it's hard to understand because there's so many ways that blockchain can be utilized, and the recontextualization of ownership is just totally being redefined right now, which I think also kind of goes back to Melissa's point of what she was sharing from a different lens. We're not talking about NFTs there, but ownership in general. We're in a space where what that means is completely different than it used to a decade ago, or even 3 years ago.
Yeah. Good food for thought. Thank you. All right, Chelsea has some cool stuff to show us. Hey, Chelsea.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea. I am the senior strategist of Young Men's here at FS. So I attended a few cool pop-ups last month. So I wanted to share some of the stuff that I saw. So I put it all on a little deck, but every brand is linked on the show and tell deck as well. So these were all very skate centric. I love to be a person who's into skateboarding and doesn't skateboard. So I continue to do that without learning how to skate. But the first one that I went to was Carpet Company and Turnstile. So Carpet Company is a skate brand. They're based out of Baltimore, and they're founded and run by two brothers, Ayman and Osama Abdeldayem. So they have founded this in 2017, 2018, and it's kind of popping off now. But they collabed with Turnstile, which is a pop punk kind of hardcore band that's also from Baltimore. And they took over Ludlow Coffee Supply, which is a really cool coffee shop in like Soho. They completely covered the windows. You can see those were pictures that I took inside the first two. They completely took down all of the decor and put their own decor up. And basically you went into the coffee shop, they had the merch lined up. You could go take a picture in front of the backdrop of their new album. They had limited edition records that were just with this collab, and then they had merch. And then on the third pic, you can see I bought a shirt and they had it packaged. The way that Carpet does their packaging is just so cool. And so it came with a little sticker. Glow On was the name of the album that they were releasing, and then Carpet, that's their normal carpet bag that they put things in. So it was really cool. If you go to the next slide, you can see some of the merch that they did with this collab. So some of it is just super straightforward turnstile with the little Carpet logo. The first one is a little teddy bear shirt. That's what I got. It's like an airbrush t-shirt, which we know is very Y2K and in right now. So obviously that's what I got. But they had blankets, they had lanyards, they had socks, they had skate decks. So like anything you could want, they had. And the pop-up was where it was first released exclusively. And then I think a couple of days later, they released it to the public. Everything is sold out. So it sells out really quickly. Love this idea of a skate brand. I think this is their second collab with Turnstile. So cool. The atmosphere when you went in, they had like a DJ. It was just so fun. And it was right next to Sweet Chick, which is also like a cool like food brand in the city. So that was the first one that I went to.
That's good. And you've never met a sticker you didn't like?
Of course, of course. And then this was actually in the same week I went to this Palace and Stella Artois pop-up. So Palace and Stella Artois collabed for their Palace Artois collection. And to launch it, they did two pop-ups, one in London and one in New York City. And basically they took over these existing bars and completely changed them. You can see in that second photo, they put like new signage up. They completely changed the outside to make it look like a pub. It's not a pub, it's a normal bar, but like they changed the decor, completely took down everything, made everything Stella or this Palace Artois. They changed all of the glasses. And so you went in and they gave you 2 drink tickets. So you also didn't have to pay for anything. It was, you got 2 free, like this Palace Artois beer or cider. And then they were also taking donations for this organization that helps to fund bartenders and people in the service industry who obviously lost a lot of income during COVID. So anything that you did purchase went to that. It was, I mean, I didn't have any expectations, but it was so fun. It was so cool. They just completely decked everything out. You got to keep the glass, which now they're selling. They sold for like $40 and is now reselling for like $200. So got the glass for free. Everyone was so nice. They were super into this like collab. And then if you go to the next slide, you can see this was some of the merch that they released. So the merch wasn't available at the pop-up that I went to in New York, but the next day or a couple of days after, they released all of this merch. So these were some of them. They even had a cooler. They had t-shirts. You could buy the glass or the cans online. And then there were all of the 7-Elevens in the city were also selling the cans of the Palace Artois. But I went to look an hour after they posted and couldn't find it anywhere. So they sold out really, really fast. But just a cool example of how these brands are collabing with things that seem sort of out of the blue, but obviously go so well together. I feel like skate culture and this sort of like bar culture and socializing go really well together. And so it was really fun, super interesting to see. And everything's linked in that doc so you can see more about each thing.
Amazing. Just like we want Nico to host Reading Rainbow, we want Chelsea to host a travel show. She's so good at it. Hopefully somewhere on our FS Instagram, there's still the amazing journey around your neighborhood that you took us on in Brooklyn. I'm guessing it's saved somewhere, but thanks, Chelsea. All right, Patricia.
Hi guys, I'm Patricia, Director of Women's, and similar to Melissa, I will also have a link on Fashion Week because we have been living and breathing that for the past month. But this is Stella McCartney's Spring Summer 22 collection and runway show. Most of you know that Stella is a personal favorite of mine, so I wanted to shine light on her collection here. So this was inspired by the transformative and transcendental qualities of fungi. Most of us also love the Fantastic Fungi documentary. So this collection was inspired by that idea. And what I thought was most interesting about this collection is basically how she presented it as a visual narrative. So in the beginning of the show, there's a narration by mycologist Paul Stamets. And the soundtrack is also really interesting because it was created using the sounds of mushrooms growing. There's a video there, and I think we can watch just the first like 30 seconds of it. I think it's really interesting how she combined his voice with the sound as well.
Welcome to the Stella McCartney Summer 2022 show. My name is Paul Stamets, and I am a mushroom expert. Fungi are an organic life force connecting us all. At no point in time is mycelium not near us. We've shared the earth with fungi for hundreds of millions of years. Not only are fungi the foundation for life on this planet today, but they offer hope for helping us to protect it tomorrow. In fashion, mushrooms are the future.
And then for those of you who are curious, I also included a link to the person who created the soundtrack. So that's how you can see how they created these sounds from mushrooms.
Very cool. Again, that's another common theme we've had a lot over the last 3 show and tells: are mushrooms, foraging, fungi. So that's something else to write down in your zeitgeist memory. Thank you, Patricia. All right, a couple more at this amazing show and tell. Tamara, you are up.
Hi everyone, I'm Tamara and I'm the Active Growth Strategist here at FS. And my first link actually is also about fungi. So I think we completely synced on that, Patricia. So the first project that I wanted to highlight is one of the Index Awards winners. So the Index Awards are actually celebrating designs that are improving life or bring humanity forward. So the first one is from biomanufacturing company Biome. So they created this environmentally regenerative natural installations that are made from mycelium. And again, we have seen so much of this material being used, but I thought it was really interesting to see how this can be used as a construction material, creating mycelium isolation panels, what I thought was really interesting. They're also carbon negative and are proven to be better and safer in case of fires or smoke. They basically don't release any harmful toxins. There's also a video there that's interesting, but one of the things that the designers and the innovators were talking about was about how design with living materials is all about collaboration and working together with nature and honoring the natural system that we find in nature. And that's something that we have been tracking here at FS for the couple of seasons already. And I thought it was really interesting to see that translated into actual products.
Mm-hmm.
And the next project that I want to highlight is the Algorithmic Justice League. So this is a movement that wants to uncover racial and gender biases in AI systems to create more equitable and accountable AI systems. So they raise awareness about the impact of AI, what the impact could be, through more educational workshops, and also by conducting company audits to be sure that everything is ethical and moral. And I think it's just super interesting to see these types of movements that are looking at all the social impacts that technologies can have, and not only on how tech can improve our lives on a more technological standpoint. And I think it's also important that we think about the impact of technology before it takes over a whole system or a whole society, to really truly cater to the needs to everyone.
I love that you shared this today. This comes on the heels of the Facebook whistleblower this week, making a lot of headlines here in the US. And I think that there is something interesting that we should all think about and talk about in the future is, does government have a role in regulating our technology, the algorithms that these companies use, things like that? So this is another layer to that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're doing great stuff. And then my last link is basically the Microsoft Ocean Plastic mouse. So basically the company wants to contribute to the waste conversation, where we see that now we have 11.2 billion tons of solid waste that is produced every year, sorry. And part of that waste, a big part of that waste is coming from electrical and electronic equipment. So the company wanted to do the part and create actually an ocean plastic mouse that is more eco-friendlier. And the shell is created from 20% recycled ocean plastic that is recovered from ocean and waterways as part of their zero waste goals. Also, the packaging is completely 100% recyclable, and it's made out of wood pulp and sugarcane natural fibers. I think it's just important to highlight all these new innovation that we need to keep an eye on and see what will be next in all of these electronic equipment parts.
Yeah, and you can order it, pre-order it. It looks like
Yeah, it's already there. So
yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you, Tamara. And our finale for today's show and tell from our materials team is Nia. Hi, Nia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nia, the materials director at FS, and I'll be closing out today's amazing show and tell. And luckily, a lot of what has been shown by everyone kind of connects a bit to my links. So firstly, this article I came across that I found super interesting highlights the Wolong National Nature Reserve in the Sichuan province in China, and a documentary on their survivalist training program that they've created for wild animals, specifically here pandas. And it's to get them acclimated to the very real and rapid changes they're experiencing from global warming, deforestation, and human-based interactions. And we know that's been changing the lives of pandas over centuries, but also the lives of nearly all wild animals around the world. I just found it really interesting and kind of a bit shocking that we're now at the point where we're seeing programs like this have to train wild animals how to be wild again. In the article, they state that many of these animals, because of shrinking habitats, have gotten accustomed to human foods, living in neighborhoods with people, which ultimately isn't healthy for them. And then on top of that, a lot of these populations have been bred in captivity because they're endangered. So I thought it was really interesting kind of confirmation of the rewilding conversation that we've been having amongst our team, and that being something that's true for all of us, both animals and humans as well. So interesting article. Try to read when you get a chance.
We've been thinking of rewilding from a plant-based perspective, and
right.
I don't think from animals and other creatures. So
yeah, it's really relevant for us all. And then this, moving on to my next link, also space related. Quickly wanted to share this article that Michael shared with me this week as well. And it highlights this tire startup company called Smart Tire, and they've developed this prototype based off engineering and intelligence from NASA that seeks to kind of reinvent the tire. So higher performance, but then also the environmental impact of tires. So you're seeing here, it's airless. So there'll never be an issue of having flats from tires. And then it uses significantly less material, as you're seeing here. So a lot more sustainable, kind of tracking that, waste-free, waste-less conversation amongst designers. We've been seeing that uptick everywhere. So love this one as well.
I thought this was interesting, and I shared it with Neo, and I read about it a few days ago because I was thinking, how can this concept, these shape memory alloy materials, be applied to apparel and accessories as well. But it's just one of those discussions, reinventing the wheel.
Literally.
No one does it. So I think it's really cool that they shared that. So we're going to bring it back to everyone. Thank you to my friends and colleagues from around the world that contributed today. We'll have this up on our YouTube channel, of course, when we're done. If anyone out there would like a chance to contribute to our next show and tell, please send me an email, michael@fashionsnoops.com. Send me your name, your contact info, and send me a link or an image of something that's currently inspiring you or on your cultural creative zeitgeist, and why you love it so much. And we can consider you to also share with our team at our next show and tell. Coming from Connecticut and the rest of my friends from around the world, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in November. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.